Section 6 is multiplying and dividing numbers. Last section that we worked on was just adding and subtracting numbers, so we're just kind of taking care of all of the operations that we have. Multiplying and dividing are actually the exact same thing. Probably talk about that a little bit later, but we can treat them as two separate things here, and that's what we're going to do. So when you're multiplying two numbers, if both signs are the same, what happens? You get a positive result. So if you're multiplying two numbers and both sides are the same, you get a positive result. For example, positive 5 times positive 7 is positive 35. Negative 3 times negative 8 is positive 24. A negative times a negative is a positive. If the signs are different, what happens? You get a negative result. For example, negative 5 times positive 7 is negative 35. And 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Those are just sort of rules or concepts that you need to memorize, I guess. Positive times positive, positive. Negative times negative, positive. When dividing two numbers, if both signs are the same, always positive, so you get a positive result. And if the signs are different, you get a negative result. Okay, so 8 divided by 4 is positive 2. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is positive 5. Negative 8 divided by positive 4 is negative 2. Positive 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. All right, this is just a summary of what we just talked about without words. So if I have two things that I'm multiplying together and they're both negative, what do I get? A positive. If I have two things that I'm multiplying together and they're both positive, I get positive. What if I have a positive times a negative? What if I have a negative times a positive? What if I have a negative divided by a negative? Positive. What about a positive divided by a positive? Positive. How about a positive divided by a negative? And how about a negative divided by a positive? Good. You got to have this down. We're going to be doing this all year long, and making mistakes on this sort of thing is detrimental to your health. To multiply rational numbers are our fractions. We learned that a couple sections ago. Multiply across the numerators. Multiply across the denominators. And reduce. You don't need a common denominator when you're multiplying. You just multiply. All right? So, for example, 2/5 times 1/3, multiply across and you get 2 times 1 is 2. 5 times 3 is 15. And then reduce if it does. Does this reduce? No. So that's the answer. Okay, we have 3/5 times 1 and 1/2. What should we do? Yep. In order to work with a mixed number, you have to change it to an improper fraction. We don't have a choice there. We have to get that improper fraction. So this turns into 3/5 times what? Yes. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, so you get 3/2. Okay, now we can multiply that. Multiply across, and you get what up top? 9/10. Does that reduce? No. 9/10 does not reduce. Okay, the last one, 1/4 times 2/9. What do we do? Multiply across, 2 times 1 is, and then 4 times 9 is 36. Does that reduce? does reduce to 1/18. Put a circle around it and you're done. Pretty straightforward, I hope. So find each product or quotient. We have 4 times negative 5, which is, sure, because 4 times 5 is 20, and then a positive times a negative is negative, so negative 20 is the answer. Moving across, negative 3 times positive 2 would be negative 6. Negative 5 times negative 6 would be positive, and then 5 times 6 is 30. How about negative 35 divided by 7? Negative, because we have a negative divided by a positive, so negative, and then 35 divided by 7 is 5. You can break it into 2 separate problems if you need to. That's no problem. 28 divided by negative 2? Negative 14. Negative 42 divided by negative 7? Positive or negative 6? Positive 6, all right? Because it's a negative divided by a negative, which is positive. How about 24 times 0.5? Positive, and the number will be, is it 12 or 48? It's 12. Positive 12. 24 times 0.5 is the same as 24 times what fraction? 1/2, which is half of 24, which is 12. How about negative 3/4 times 1/2? It will be negative. We multiply across and we get 3 times 1, which is 3. 4 times 2, which is 8. Does 3/8 reduce? No. So negative 3/8 is the answer. Finally, negative 3. What does that 2 mean? What does that say? That's an exponent of 2. So how would I read that? So negative 3 squared is negative 3 times itself, negative 3. What's negative 3 times negative 3? Positive 9. And that's the answer.